All right, Rabosai, good morning. Let us begin. So we are Mesillas Hashem, continuing today in Perek Yud Aleph. We are picking up, Mesillas Hashem actually just sent out the PDF on the chat as well. And we're continuing now in what the Ramchal calls Prate HaNikios, the details of the Midah of Nikios. And specifically, again, after we've kind of made our way through the Averos, with which a person struggles with. We've gone so far through Gezel, theft, Arayos, immorality, Ma'achalos, Asuros, forbidden food items, and now the Ramchal is making a focus on the Averos that we encounter as a result of our interpersonal relationships. So today we're starting with Hona'as Dvarim. The Ramchal begins. So literally again, Hona'as Dvarim, Hu lidaber b'fnei chaveru levad sheyivosh mimenu. So I will say, so what is Hona'as Dvarim? So remember, just to illustrate this, we have a concept of Ona'ah. Ona'ah means overcharging. So the truth is, interestingly enough, there's something called Ona'as Mamon and Ona'as Dvarim. So you could go ahead and, so to speak, overcharge, but it really doesn't mean, it really means a form of affliction. So there's financial affliction and there's verbal affliction. I could afflict you by cheating you out of money, right? Or I could harm you verbally. Ona'as Dvarim is the process, or is the Avera of harming one verbally. So how does one do this? So he says, for example, to speak in front of someone in a way that is embarrassing about them. Now, again, what this refers to over here is not that I'm dafka going out of my, or it's not that I'm explicitly saying something embarrassing about someone, but I'm speaking about Ruvain in front of Ruvain to Shimon. Speaking to Shimon, but I'm speaking to Shimon about Ruvain in a way that's embarrassing to Ruvain. Kol shekein ha'amira beferish davar shevash bo. All the more so, explicitly embarrassing someone, or doing something to someone that is going to cause them to be embarrassed. An example that Shabbosai could be, listen to this. If a person was a Baal Tshuva, lo yomar lo zechar ma'asecha harishonim. Right? You should never say to a Baal Tshuva, tell me a little bit about your glory days, right? Tell me a little bit about, right, before you found God, what was life like, right? What is life like? Now again, sometimes a person speaks about that of their own volition. Okay, that's their prerogative. That's their prerogative. But to go ahead and to remind the person of their past, to remind the person of their past transgressions, that's Ona'as Dvarim. Or, Im hayu chaloim b'ayim alav. Rabbi said, this is incredible. Or if let's say a person was suffering. Now, chaloim b'ayim alav could be that a person literally is ill. A person is struggling or suffering with something. Lo yomar lo kidarch sha'amar chaverav le'Iyov, zechar na mi hu naki avad. You know, when Eov was suffering, his friends, probably trying to be well-meaning, said, Eov, people don't suffer for no reason. If this is happening to you, it must be that you've done something wrong that you probably should try to fix. Now again, well-meaning, they were trying to help him out, but obviously a terribly wrong thing to say. First of all, because theologically it's not true. In other words, there's a concept of tzaddik v'ralo, there's a concept of the righteous suffering, there's a concept that sometimes difficult things happen to people not because they're at fault for anything, but because of something bigger that is at play. So to say something, so these are all examples of saying something to someone which is going to cause the individual pain. So this one is a bit more innocuous. Imagine for a moment, there are brokers or right brokers who are looking to buy grain. Lo yomar lahem luchu eitzel ploni shu mocher tvua. Don't say to them, yeah, you should go to Ruvain because Ruvain sells wheat. V'yodea bo shelo machar tvua miyamav. But you know that Ruvain never sold wheat before in his life. In other words, so I will say, if you notice again, there's different examples of this. So there's embarrassing someone. There's ultimately reminding someone of their past. There's saying something to someone which ultimately, did I do? Oh, no, I'm sorry. So I thought maybe I sent out the wrong PDF. Sorry. So I'll say there's saying something that ultimately is hurtful to someone, and then again there's just saying things that are misleading. Now again, Reuben comes to me, he's looking to buy wheat. I say, go to Shimon. Shimon sells wheat. Shimon doesn't sell wheat. Have I done something terrible? I haven't done something, except I'm using my speech to cause someone harm. In this case, maybe the harm is a form of inconvenience, but it's all called Ona'as Dvarim. He goes on, he says as follows. V'zeu shenemar bo v'yareisem elokecha. I'm sorry, I skipped. Ukvar amru zichron lebracha. Chazal said, Gadol onaas dvarim me'onaas mamon. This is actually an incredible statement. Chazal understood that verbally harming someone is even worse than financially harming someone. How so? Shezeh ne'emar v'yareisem elokecha, v'zeh lo ne'emar v'yareisem elokecha. When the Torah warns us against onaas dvarim, harming someone with words, the Torah adds in the phrase, and you shall fear God. So the fear of God is placed in the context of onaas dvarim, verbally harming someone. But the fear of God is not placed in the context of financially harming someone. Obviously, both are asur, both are prohibited, both are terrible. But again, and it's actually interesting, I think most of us, if you were to ask a person, what's worse, financially harming someone or verbally harming someone, I think reflexively we would assume financially harming someone because that's quantifiable, that's substantive. And yet, again, from the Torah, from a Kadosh Baruch Hu's perspective, verbally harming someone is so much worse because sometimes the pain itself could be so much more acute. Incredible. V'chol shekenim hu berabim. Now we'll say all the more so if a person verbally harms another in public. Shebehedja shaninu, for that we explicitly learned, Hamal bin pnei chaveiro berabim, ein lo chelik li olam haba. That if a person goes ahead and literally embarrasses someone in public, the embarrasser does not have a portion in the world to come. All the gates are closed. Chutz misha'arei ona'ah. Now I will say this is interesting. The Gemara, the Ramchal is quoting the Gemara that's talking about since the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, all of the various gates of prayer are closed, with the exception of one who cries out to God because he's been afflicted, verbally afflicted by another. So we'll say, so just some examples of the severity of onah. Rabbi Elazar says, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to extract punishment, he'll normally do so through a shaliach, with one exception, one who verbally harms another. Va'amru shlosha ein hapargod nina b'fneihem ve'echad mehen onah va'afilu l'dvar mitzvah. Now we'll say, the truth is, all of the examples we've given until now is verbally harming someone. Right? Verbally harming someone for obviously no good reason. No good reason, whatever the examples are. But I will say sometimes one even has to be careful with verbally harming someone in the context of a mitzvah. How so? So that on one hand, the Torah says, Amar HaKosov, Hochiach tochiach es hamisecha. The Torah says you have to rebuke someone. We'll say it's actually a difficult mitzvah of hochacha or tochacha. If you see someone doing something wrong, you have an obligation to point out that wrong. You might have thought that this is true even if you embarrass someone. In other words, if I see someone doing something wrong, I have a mitzvah to rebuke them, even if it means embarrassing them. Panav mishtanos means like literally their face changes color, to which the Gemara says, Talmud Lomar, v'lo sisa alav chet. Do not sin as a result of this mitzvah. So in other words, there's a mitzvah that if someone does something wrong, to try to go ahead and give them proper direction to help them find the right way back. But you're not allowed to perform that mitzvah at the expense of embarrassing another human being. It's incredible. So you see over here that even there's a mitzvah. There's a mitzvah of hochacha. There's a mitzvah to rebuke. There's a mitzvah to go ahead and give a person proper instruction when they're doing something wrong. But even that has to be done with such incredible sensitivity to preserve the dignity of the individual. Incredible. So the Gemara says, Mikol Eila HaMa'amarim, from all of these statements, what do you see? Tira, Ad Hechon Mispashtim Anfei Ashara Hazos, the Kama Anshakasha. So we'll say, what's the takeaway from here? The takeaway from here is literally how severe the prohibition of ona'as dvarim. So we'll say, so again, when we define that term, ona'ah really means to afflict, dvarim verbal, right? So verbal affliction, hurting someone with words. Multiple examples of it. There's literal hurting someone with words, going ahead and embarrassing them, going ahead and saying something hurtful, and then there are other more nuanced forms. There's reminding a Baal Tshuva of his past. There's when a person is suffering, saying, oh, your suffering must be a result of something you've done wrong. But even in the pursuit of the positive, I see someone doing something wrong, I want to give them proper instruction. Even I will say, the hardest mitzvah in the Torah, the hardest mitzvah is hocheach tocheach amisecha, is giving rebuke. Is giving rebuke. Because it's only a mitzvah if you know exactly how to say it and what to say. If you don't know how to say it and what to say, not only is it not a mitzvah, but what? It becomes an avera. Therefore, you see that Chal says, you see her, and I will say, what's the point of this? Just to reorient this a little bit, what's the point of this? Remember, in this chapter of Nikios, Ramchal is highlighting the averas that we transgress without even realizing that we're transgressing. So if you think about this, Rabbi say, how many times in life do we make jokes that are well-intentioned jokes, but they come at the expense of another person? And this happens all the time in life because we've been the butt of these jokes as well. Sometimes someone makes a joke and you laugh, you smile, but at the end of the day you're hurt. That's ona'as tvarim. That's ona'as tvarim. How many times does that happen just in our day-to-day social interactions? Again, without any negative intent, without an intention, chas v'shalom, to hurt or to harm. But just again, as the way people speak, the way people conduct themselves, the Ramchal says how careful we have to be in this topic of ona'as. We'll stop over here for today. In Mesillas Hashem, tomorrow, we'll continue with Nesinas Ha'itza, giving wrong advice. Shkoyach.